many of you, by a show of hands, have a best friend? I'm Australian, and we call that mates, and it's mateship. Now, I want you to close your eyes for a moment, and I want you to think about that best friend. Visualize them. And I want you to think about how you feel when they call you when they're in crisis, when their world is falling apart, and they reach out to you to make meaning out of madness. You can open your eyes, because I'd like to introduce you to my best friend. No, she's not magically going to come from that door, fall from the ceiling. It's me. Now, I didn't always have this kind of appreciation, a relationship with her, me. In fact, I wasn't very kind to her. I wasn't patient. I didn't value her, and I didn't protect her. I think frenemy is more a word that I would use in describing my relationship previously. I lacked self-love. I lacked a dynamic sense of agency. Psychology today defines agency as a way that we determine the outcome of our future and our ability to reach our full potential. So in this lack of agency that I had, I discovered it through extraordinary circumstances. I'll take you back. It was September of 2019, and I was at the top of my game, literally. I was a busy CEO traveling. I am a busy active mother to a teenage boy and a rescue whippet named Zeus. I'm a CEO. I was a bit of a fashionista, love shoes. And I was actually here on the continent and giving a workshop for some young African minds on collaboration, the 17th UN Sustainable Development Goal. It was a great session, and at the end of my session, my students taught me a few African dance moves. You can probably still find them on YouTube if you want to go look for them. I left, and I was in a Boston airport 2 weeks later, catching a plane to Sydney where I live, and I fell gravely, suddenly ill just 1 hour before my plane was to take off. I was ambulanced from the lounge, unconscious, and raced to the hospital, where 20 hours later, I would be diagnosed with cerebral malaria. While my family and friends gathered by my bedside, the doctors told them, while I was on full life support, unrecognizable, that the prognosis was very grim. My lifespan was measured in moments, not in years. And doctors had said on 3 different occasions to them, she won't make it to see the sunrise. As a miracle of technology and God's grace, I survived. But when I woke up, I was terribly confused, and my feet and my hands were permanently and irreversibly damaged. My son, who was at my bedside when I woke up frustrated and confused and in excruciating pain, says to me, "Mom, life is 10% what you're given and 90% what you do with it." Mic drop. I didn't know, nor did he, that he was quoting the work of Professor Viktor Frankl, who was a neurologist who survived the Holocaust. And one of the most profound things he said was that we humans control how we feel and our attitude about certain things. So my son had given me this mandate to determine how I was going to deal with the situation that I was presented, which is probably not dissimilar to how you all were feeling in the middle of the pandemic, when all of a sudden, in an instant, your lives were transformed. You had frustrations, you had lack of information, homeschooling, I had that too. So there I was with this decision I needed to make and this frustration that I had. And in the quiet, being unbusy, No longer the CEO. I couldn't be a friend to my gorgeous girlfriends. I couldn't be the mom to my son or my dog, a partner, a fashionista. I lay there unable to move. My body had atrophied from the coma. The muscles just fell off of my body. And there I was with this reconciliation that needed to take place. Me back to myself. I had to forgive this inner voice, this inner me, of all of her lack of dignity that she showed in certain situations. I had to forgive myself for my lack of patience with her and how I didn't show her compassion when she needed it. She had been through a lot. Trauma as a child, sexual abuse, 2 bad marriages, and a series of unfortunate life choices. There was a lot that needed to be healed. But I held the decision, and my perspective determined the outcome. And I'm Puerto Rican. And being Puerto Rican, we love singing and dancing. And there I was with feet that were damaged. And my vocal cords from being intubated for 2 weeks had been damaged. And every night when I spoke, my voice would be down to a whisper. So I feared perhaps I might never be the same person that I was back then. I decided at that point that the only person who could see me was me. Because all I was this person with no agency and a number on my wrist that everyone referred to me. So when my son would leave the hospital every night, I'd ask him to open up my laptop, because I was unable to move very well, and put my earbuds in my ears as to not disturb the patient behind this thin curtain next to me. And I asked him to put on a documentary. And I watched a woman of color, break barriers and recover from something physical for her, which was the cesarean birth of twins, and recondition herself 180 days later to be the first woman of color to perform at Coachella, which is an iconic American music festival in California. Now, that woman was none other than Beyonce. And as ridiculous as it sounds, she became my virtual coach. And every night, I would lie alone, Beyonce and I'd watch her talk through her challenges and get on that stage and work out. And I would will my arms to move just a little bit more, just a little bit more. And I would dance every dance with her in my head and sing every note. It was about day 44 when the nurse came in and she said, "Hey, Steph, how are you?" And I went, "I'm great." And it was like I won the lottery. Because I knew at that point that I could do it. I never knew what would be the new version of me, the Steph 2.0, if you would. But I knew that if I put the work in, that this could happen. And I also believed my son in that 90% of what I had control over, that I could do better. And so I didn't know at the time that it would be 400 nights in the hospital during the pandemic, isolated, as many of you were, away from friends, family, church, school, work, and everything else in between. I didn't know that it would take 28 operations only to be unsuccessful at saving my feet. But I hung in there. On March 31st of 2021, just under a year, I became Australia's first bilateral osseointegrated bionic female. And I don't see myself in the same lens of vanity that I did in the previous version of me. You know, I have special powers, I tell people, especially children. It's super fun. They look at me and go, "Oh my God, that's a robot lady, Mom." But in this embodiment, I see the perfection in the imperfection. I see myself as bold, bionic, and blessed as I stand before you today. And my wish for you is this, because I can tell you the one thing I am certain of is uncertainty. And I can promise you that you will face a crisis, a tragedy, or a call from someone else when they're making mayhem and you have to find meaning, even in your own circle. So I challenge you to try this, to close your eyes like you did earlier and remember that compassion that you felt for that person that relies on you. I want you to go look in the mirror, because what you see really depends on your outcome. If you see the victim, you will stay a victim. If you can find the hero in you and focus on becoming the hero and taking control of your agency, then you too will be better positioned to live less anxious, more productive, and happier, as I do now. I'd like to leave you with a little quote from Beyonce, but done my way. And it's this: 'Cause I've got me, myself, and I. That's all I have. In the end, that's what I found out. And I found my agency. Now I'm gonna be my own best friend. Thank you. Thank you. God bless you.